y'all. Welcome to Hustle Humbly. It's Alissa and Katy, and we are two top producing realtors in the Baton Rouge market.
We work for two different companies where we should be competitors, but we have chosen community over competition.
The goal of our podcast is to encourage you to find your own way in business.
So stop comparing yourself and start embracing your strengths. Hello, friends. This is Katy.
And Alissa.
We're going to identify ourselves now. What do you think about that?
We need to just keep remembering to do it so they recognize our voices.
Well, I mean, someone might pick it up. Today is episode number 43.
Oh my gosh.
All things offers.
Yay.
All about offers, all things offers. Either way, what if someone just picked it up today? They don't know I'm Katy.
Oh yeah, that's true. They could be starting here.
Wouldn't that be a funny thing? I mean, someone might pick it up on 43.
Yeah.
And then they're going to go back. And do you know what they're going to listen to first? Episode number 9, database, our most downloaded episode.
Because that's the one that everybody loves.
They all want that one. That's the
Crazy.
one. Okay, so this is all about offers. And I have some thoughts on how to break this down. So do you have any thoughts?
Nope.
Okay, what I would like to do first is for us to put on our buyer agent hat and think about this from the angle of how do we talk
have the buyer.
We have the buyers. So we have found the house. We've got the house. We're ready to make an offer. What do you do? What is your typical course of action with your buyers? What are you asking them? What are you talking to them about? What is your pre-work before you start writing your offer?
Okay, so we know they're pre-approved at this point.
They sure better be if you took them out to see a house.
Yes. So once we found the house, while we are in the house, usually I email their lender and copy them, the buyers on it.
Okay.
And I say, hey, they love this house, $250,000. Can you please send me a pre-approval letter and let me know what the monthly note would be and how much the total closing costs and prepaids are.
Okay. I love it. Do you want on your pre-approval letter for it to say the amount?
So a lot of my lenders will send it to me in a Word doc.
Oh. And
I can change the amount because they have told me like, hey, these people can't go above 260.
Right. And so but so let's say they were approved for 260, but you're writing an offer that's for 250. Do you type in 250? Yeah, me too, because the last thing I want is for a seller to look at their pre-approval and realize they can spend $50,000 more dollars.
Yeah.
And then suddenly they're not feeling so happy about that and want to negotiate and get all the monies.
Right.
Okay. I like it. What else? Okay. So you're in the house and you emailed the lender.
I checked the disclosure if I haven't already.
Okay.
Now I check the disclosures before I show it usually just to make sure. Is there flood insurance required? Did this house flood?
Okay.
Has it had any other issues? How old is the roof? So I re-review it for the ones that they're like, I think this is the one, just to make sure. Because when I was a new agent, there was an offer that they had said was not in a flood zone.
Okay.
And then the lender emailed us and was like, hey, this one needs flood insurance. And it was a lot and it actually killed the deal.
Yeah. I mean, that happens.
Yeah. I sometimes I'm sensitive. It's funny. The things that you're sensitive to are the things that
you've already dealt
had
with.
An issue with.
Always.
So I'm really sensitive to flood insurance now because that affects their monthly note.
Yeah. You will learn all those lessons the hard way though, right? Mm-hmm. Like one time you wrote the offer and you forgot to do this and then you never forget that again.
Right. Exactly.
Okay. So but here's my question. What if you've gone out to see 10 houses? Do you look at the property disclosure on all 10?
So here's the thing, you know how I operate with my buyers. I think I talk about this in client management. Yeah. If they send me a list of 10 houses, I email them back and I color code them by green, orange, and red.
Right.
Green is like everything on this looks good. It's what you said you wanted. It doesn't have insurance, flood insurance, if that was a thing for you. It's in the area you wanted. The ones in orange, well, this one's going to be 50 minutes from your work.
Yeah.
This one's outside of the area that you told me. This one doesn't have a garage and you told me that was a must.
Yeah.
So I'm reviewing the properties before we walk into them because it takes me 5 minutes at home.
Yeah.
Whereas it would take me 20 minutes to drive there, 15 minutes to show the house, 20 minutes to get to the next house. So I review every property disclosure because I'm looking to make sure there's not a deal breaker
before you spend time there.
Then go look at it.
Okay, so, I like it.
Because I make all my notes before I send it back. And then if they send me 10, we might go look at like 5 or 6.
Right. Okay. Makes sense. All right. So you're in the house and you've sent the email to your lender.
Yes.
You've already looked at your property disclosure.
Yep.
They say, this is the house.
Mm-hmm.
What's next?
I write the offer.
Mm-hmm.
We talk about, close date, appliances, things like that. Check realtor remarks, make sure there's nothing special there.
Yeah.
And then as soon as I get the closing cost amount from the lender, I just ask my buyers, do you want to ask the seller to pay all of this, half of it? What's more important to you? And then we just sign it.
Okay. All right. I want to interject here.
Go for it.
We have listeners all over, right? And it still kind of baffles and blows my mind. There are still markets today that every single house gets a multiple offer. Houses sell on the first day in the market. They sell for over list price. I just want to say, are we shifting? Are we in an even market? We're not sellers. Probably a buyer's market. We're right on the line.
It's weird because the buyers are struggling to find the good houses.
Yeah.
We're not low on inventory, right? But I just feel like maybe the inventory that we have isn't
what
the best inventory. Yes. Yeah. For whatever reason.
Okay. So just preface all of this. We're talking about writing offers in a sort of stable market. Let's call it a stable market.
Okay.
We're not writing an offer in a down market or a super crazy competitive market. Okay.
Right.
And that's just where we are currently. I mean, in the course of my career, I've been in for sure seller markets. I mean, especially in 2006, 7, probably 6 and 7 when it was after Katrina. It's definite like sells right away. Things went fast. And then now I think it's just a little bit more stable. Okay.
Right.
So yes, I agree with all you've said. I would probably say I haven't taken anyone that isn't pre-approved. So if we found the house and it's time to make an offer, I don't do this inside of the house anymore. When I first started and before e-sign, I did all the time. I would have the paper and I would get out my pen and we would talk it out and write it out in there. And those were the days, in my opinion, because they asked all the questions. I told them all of the things and we were all there together. But now typically I'll say, okay, if you want to write an offer, I'm going to get back to my computer.
Yes.
When I get out of the car and then I'm going to do it. I'm not going to do this in the house. There's just no point.
I do it at home also.
Yeah. I mean, it's just easier. So the questions that I think I like to ask them are just deposit. I'm like, look, in this price range, this amount would be appropriate, and make sure that they understand that deposit is going to get put into an escrow account. So the money actually has to be in the bank. And because I've had that happen before, they're like, I thought they were just going to hold it. Yeah. They were just going to hold this check. No. So deposit, I cover that. And I guess we could even dive into your thoughts on deposits. I know locally it's sort of been an item that's talked about as almost pointless in some ways.
Yeah. In our marketplace, the seller is not protected in our purchase agreement.
No, not at all. So the deposit is just kind of silly. But if you're writing an offer, which is what we're doing right now, and you want it to be considered and taken seriously, I think a deposit is helpful for that. I mean,
we always put 1,000 in our marketplace.
Yeah, I think that's normal.
That's our market norm.
Yeah, for sure. Okay. Closing date. I normally talk with them about this. Look, if you can't go to a closing on a Friday, I need to know like what day of the week. I specifically, I'll ask them, I'll say, look, this is the date range that you'd be looking at if we write it today. Do you like a Tuesday? Do you like help me out? Like, because when you put this number on there, the seller does not have to close any other day but this literal day. Like we can't all of a sudden, 3 days out, be like, oh, well, I can't really close on Fridays. I'm like, well,
that's a problem.
we picked the day. We picked the day. So I make sure they understand that. And then occupancy. I think from a buyer end isn't as hard to figure out, but especially if you're representing a buyer that maybe you're also selling their property, we got to really think through this occupancy situation.
Right.
So if that seller, the property that you're writing an offer on is asking for occupancy, you just got to talk that out. Reserved items are the other thing I wrote down. If the seller has some stuff that's reserved in the MLS listing, I want to make sure they understand that.
This is huge.
Yeah, the reserve stuff is huge.
Yeah.
Also, I think the philosophy, and I think you probably, because I know you said you try to keep them simple. The philosophy when I'm writing an offer is I don't really want to counter. I want to write an offer that the seller and the agent can look at and say, perfect.
Yeah.
I will take this. I don't need to hem and haw about, I don't want to leave off the reserved items if they clearly put them in the realtor remarks. Put it in there.
I try to be very thorough with what they have requested.
I think one of the other things I've implemented in the last few years, and for almost anyone, I usually try to call, text, email, and communicate with the listing agent before I really finish writing. Like, is there a closing date that the seller has to have? Are they trying to stay in the house until the end of school? Like, what? I need to know the things that I can avoid us having to get a counter on the front end.
Right.
Yeah. So I think closing date, reserved items, that kind of stuff is nice if you talk to the listing agent. Or just like, hey, what does your seller want and need? At least you know where you're coming from. Appliances we talked about. And then the warranty. Do you have a thought about this?
I don't like them.
They're not very good or functional.
I just feel like if you're writing an offer for a buyer and you're asking for closing costs and you're asking for a price reduction and you're asking for appliances, like, everything that you put on there, the listing agent has to relay that to the seller, and it's
like a
just
line item,
one more thing. I don't ask for them. I tell my buyer, look, if during the inspection the home inspector says this AC might have a year left, maybe we can negotiate it then. But in the upfront offer, I just don't.
I mean, I still do, depending on the buyer and the situation, but I think I might do it less. But
I'm also educating my buyers on what the home warranty is. If it would really operate the way that they are supposed to, then and we're probably going to get a lot of home warranty people mailed
some flack
after this. But had a seller them home 2 months in, the AC goes out and they pay $100 and it doesn't get covered for one reason or another, and then it looks like I promised them they'd be protected for a year. I've had an angry mother call me.
Oh, no.
About, you sold my daughter this house and you got her a home warranty and blah, blah, blah. And I mean, I got one for my parents for a birthday. And
you bought them a warranty?
I bought them a home warranty because they have their AC is 28 years old.
Oh, my word.
And they always joke about it. So for the birthday, I was like, hey, you have a whole year. Let's hope it goes out.
Right.
And it didn't, but something else did. And,
did it work?
No, it was a horrible experience. And it was like the third company I've tried. And my thing is, save your money, have savings. And I think that it's best for an air conditioner. It's not really worth it for a water heater even.
Probably not. Okay. That's fair. Okay. So have we walked through your steps as you're writing your offer?
I think so.
Okay. How do you present the offer? And I think this was a question that was asked. Like, what is in your email let's back that up. I will send it in an email to the listing agent, but I will always, always, always call them, text them, communicate with them in some way besides that email.
Yeah.
And they have to respond to me for me to know that they have received,
that they got it,
the offer. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. What do you put in that email?
It just depends. I mean, I usually like to write a little something about my buyers, that they're pre-approved. I usually copy the lender on the email to the listing agent and say, hey, see the attached offer. My clients are strong buyers. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to the lender. I feel like that just it lets them know this is going to be an open line of communication the whole time.
Okay.
They love the house, but these are some of the updates needed, but these are some of the comps in the area and we're kind of struggling with value. And this is why we feel the offer is fair. So I do like to give some insight if it's, a lower offer or just if there's no explanation, like if they were priced well and it's a good offer, maybe just a little bit of information about my buyers and what they love about the house and whatnot.
Yeah. Okay. What if you know you're in a multiple offer, how does that change?
Oh,
do you take out the stuff that the house needs updating?
I do. Well, I do, but I think it just depends on the buyer at that time.
Okay.
Like I've had the conversation with my buyer that, look, this is like the highest and best. If I call you and say that we lost, you can't wish that you had gone $500 more.
Right.
Like and I tell them, I can't pick the number for you.
You have to do it.
Yeah. All I'm here to do in this situation is to show you the data, the facts of the subdivision, the market in this area.
Yep.
And now it's up to y'all to decide what the house is worth to you. What is the most that you would be willing to pay for it?
Right.
And they have to give me that number.
Okay.
And I have to make sure they understand that if the seller's asking 200 and we offer 200 with 5,000 in closing, that was not a full price offer.
Right. Oh, and oh my, please do not email me your full price offer. I'm doing my air quotes.
Yeah.
With 5,000 in closing costs.
Yeah. It's not full price.
I'm talking to you agents. Please don't send me the email that says, but I sent you a full price offer. Why did you take the other offer? I'm like, that wasn't full price.
Right.
Oh, man.
So I usually try to give somewhat of a short response time, like maybe 5 or 6 hours.
Oh, really?
If it's multiple offers.
Okay.
Yeah. If it's regular, I usually just give 24, maybe 20 or something.
20?
I usually try to do like noon the next day.
Right. Okay.
Unless it's fine. Like I'm writing it super late at night or whatever.
Yeah.
But because I don't want to put a deadline of 7 p.m. because tomorrow night at 7 p.m. is bath time. And
like you don't want to be working then.
I don't want to be working then. So I'm mindful of my hours.
I think that's a great tip because I do the same thing. I'll put 4 p.m. or 5 p.m. the next day, even if I'm sending it at 8 or 9 p.m. the night before and I'd like to give them 24 hours. There is no law saying it has to be 24 hours to the minute.
Mm-mm.
I mean, and because they will wait and send it to you at 8 p.m.
Yeah.
And then I have the, the obligation to call my buyer at that point and be like, hey, we've received a counter. Now it's 8 p.m. and I'm working.
Right.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's a really good tip. So be mindful of that, friends. Okay. In your email, I know you and I have talked about this. You put all of the documents into one file. So tell me what is in that file. What are the documents?
I think it's the purchase agreement, the property dissolution, lead-based paint, wire fraud. Maybe I go ahead and put in like the customer information form just to have it all together. The pre-approval letter. What else?
That's probably it. I mean, typically I'm just sending the disclosures and the pre-approval.
I like to keep all my documents together.
Okay. I don't necessarily do it that way. Because I save them as separate files, and in .loop, I like them as separate files. Like I want the PDD to be separate of the purchase agreement because I also don't want to send a PDD to a lender. They don't really need to see that. So because God forbid it goes into some underwriter who sees some nonsense on the PDD that they would have never even known about. And I have a new, this may be jumping ahead a little. If we get a counter and especially as the listing or as the buyer's agent, if we get a counter and everyone agrees, when I send it to the lender, I put the counter on top of the fully signed offer, not at the last page, at the first page. If you put it at the last page, the appraiser may not see it.
Right.
Or if you put it in a separate doc, like all of the purchase agreement signed and initialed, even though it has the box checked that says countered, and then the counter is a separate file, all of a sudden, here I am with a low appraisal that's mysteriously the exact amount that was on the offer, but not on the counter.
Right. Funny how that happens.
So silly. So I do think that the way the documents are put together in that file, I do think matters in those cases. But please don't ever send an offer with page 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 of the purchase agreement in separate files.
Oh my gosh.
Like if you can't figure out how to merge a PDF,
yeah,
I understand technology can be frustrating, but please find someone who can merge it for you. Because you do not want to create work for the listing agent who's trying to work with you. I mean, don't make it like an act of Congress to find a pre-approval letter or ask for it 3 times. Like make it easy for them to say, well, this agent is on top of it and they know what they're doing and it's going to be a pleasant transaction because the agent can push for your offer to be accepted or countered well or worked with. based on how they perceive the way you presented that offer.
Right.
I believe that to be true. I mean, when we'll get to being on the listing agent side in a minute. Okay. So is there anything else we need to think about on buyer side of this with our buyer hat on?
I feel like I am starting to see, I guess that's listing agent, but I try to keep it at like a 9 or 10 day inspection period, like very short.
I think that's fair, unless you're dealing with some sort of extenuating circumstances.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so inspection periods, but all that stuff. I think the other thing I'd like to say is maybe make sure you really let your buyer know that if you're sending them e-docs, that you're okay to talk to them about this, that you're available for them if they have questions, that you want to walk them through the 9
Don't we have that in our template?
I think so.
Email?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we do.
I usually send them something before. I just send them something to sign that says, hey, just want to let you know, these are coming. This is the documents that are in that you're going to be signing. Call me when you're going through them if you have any questions or want me to explain anything.
Yeah, I think that's fine.
Hello, friends. We are so excited that so many of you are using the template course, and the reviews are just pouring in, letting us know that it has helped your business as much as it has helped our business.
Yes, listen to this review. Thank you so much for providing this wealth of information, knowledge in template form. So far, I've used a handful and received positive feedback like, this is so professional, or I really appreciate how organized you are. I mean, can you imagine?
Yeah,
your clients are actually going to say that.
Yes.
All right, here's another one. Thank you so much for this. I can't tell you how many times I've started this and how many notebooks of samples and notes I had. I have ADHD and it is super hard to stay focused on getting it done. Having it all in one place is going to make it so nice.
That is what we're here for.
I know. Just look, you don't need to reinvent the wheel. Just use these.
Yeah, nice and simple, easy, ready to go, ready for you to put your own logo on, make it sound like you. So head over to hustlehumblypodcast.com/course and check it out.
That's right.
And you're going to enjoy them. You're going to love them. It's going to change your life.
Literally fired my assistant. They are the best.
Okay, enjoy the template.
Yes, enjoy. Okay. All right. Shall we put on our listing agent hat now?
Yes.
Okay. I'm putting it on. YouTube is watching me put it on. Okay. How do you review an offer? Like when you got it in, it came in your email. What do you do to review it? Like what's your
first thing I do is I pull out my notes section of my phone.
Okay.
And I bullet point the highlights.
Okay. I do this on a sticky note because I like paper.
Yes. Well, this is going to be forwarded to my seller, so I'm typing it to send it.
As usual, you're more efficient than I because then I take my sticky note and I have to type it into my Gmail, right?
So I start immediately, even before I've read the offer, I open my notes and I'm like, hey guys, have an offer. And I like to deliver it in email so that they can see it with their eyes, discuss it, call me as soon as you read this. Here's the breakdown of the offer. Purchase price, closing costs, close date, refrigerator, washer, dryer, and the fountain outside remains. They want the closing to take place here. And this is also kind of for me to reference back
later.
To. Yeah. Because it has everything, seller to provide a wood destroying insect report, 50, whatever. So, I then send it and then I say the offer is attached for you to review. Call me as soon as you get this. And then I just text them and say, hey, I sent you an offer. Call me once you've reviewed it.
Okay. I like that. When you send the offer, do you give them a net? Do you work out their net for them?
I do have a little, I don't calculate it, but I have like the template. So I'll say based on this, $250 minus $5,000 in closing costs minus a $55 termite minus a $600 home warranty, minus, and then I just put what you owe.
Yeah. Okay.
So they know minus commission. I have that all in there too. So.
Yeah, I do that too because I think it's so important for them to understand whether they paid attention or not in their listing appointment. You can't assume they remember,
right?
Like what their fees are. I mean, I've never had a seller complain about seller paid closing costs, like their closing costs, because they always know. I told them at the listing, I repeated it on their net sheet. Like you have to pay to cancel your mortgage. Yes. There are seller closing costs.
About 4 years ago, I had a seller that was like, what is this charge? I'm not paying this. I'm like, well, that's a seller charge. It's just to cancel well, I'll cancel my own mortgage. And,
like, that's not an option.
Right. He just lost his mind, and it was so silly. He was doing it out of principle that I did not warn him. And the title company did not say up front, hey, by the way, these are the title fees. Yeah. I mean, I don't think title companies even do that.
No, they don't.
So after that, I have been sensitive to make sure they understand that there are seller fees.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, I've had them yell at me too, but it's been a lot of years because I mean, it only takes once for me to be like, wait, I got to tell you. Yeah. Okay. You mentioned the WDIR. So obviously we're in Louisiana. We have a lot of all kinds of bugs, but termites and powder post beetles and whatever. As a buyer's agent, you don't ask for
I feel that a termite inspection is an inspection and that the buyer is in charge of all inspections.
Yeah, that's how I feel as well. But it is common in our marketplace to get a wood destroying insect addendum, which basically is asking the seller to provide that inspection and report. And I don't ask for them, and I want the buyer to be in control of that. Like, they need to figure it out.
Yeah. And if there's a problem and they can't issue it for whatever reason, I do ask the seller to provide it at that point. But
yeah. Okay. So you've reviewed, this is what I want to ask you. What are your red flags? When you're reading an offer, do you have some red flags, things that make you nervous or concerned? Or
I always look at how much they're putting down, what kind of loan they're doing. If they're going FHA and I know this house is peeling paint, that's a red flag. If I know that there's things about this property that will disqualify it for whatever reason. I'm ultra sensitive when I'm the listing agent on a condo to check the financing.
Yeah.
And I always I usually email the lender within, like, right after, or I just forward them the whole email from the buyer's agent and say, hey, I just got an offer from Katy. She's working with a buyer that came with a pre-approval letter from you. I wanted to check with your confidence on getting us to the closing table. And I like to do this because the lenders usually send back glowing reviews of the buyer. So if ever there is an issue,
they don't.
I will respond again to that email where in the beginning you told me this was solid.
This is what you said.
Yeah, this is what you said. So I want to understand why we are now having a credit issue.
Right.
Whatever the case may be. I just find it kind of puts them more responsible, and sometimes they can even figure something out magically on their company side. Yeah, because they're like, oh my God, like it almost is like you messed up. So
yeah. Yes, agree. Oh my goodness. Okay. What makes do you always, if you get a low offer, your seller is not happy with the offer you've received, what makes you counter? Do you ever reject? What is your philosophy on this?
I don't think I ever reject.
Yeah.
I try to just talk sense into my seller about some buyers just want to try. And then, sometimes I'm like, I know that this is far from what we're asking, but it may not be a bad offer.
Right.
Let's look at the numbers here.
Right. Look at the
and I remind them that the sales paid closing costs. So sellers, it's emotional. I've been there. I've been a seller a few times, and you feel like you're getting taken advantage of, paying all these fees and doing this and that. So I just like to remind them that sellers typically pay closing costs, and all your neighbors did. So they're not picking on you. You're not giving the house away. This will still be at this price per square foot for the subdivision.
Right.
Do the numbers based on what you would get back at closing. Does that work for you? Let's focus on the check you'll be getting.
Yeah.
And let's think about like that this month would be your last mortgage payment. And I try to talk a lot about what it would mean if this went through.
Yeah.
Like you would be moving on. You would have no more mortgage. This would all be over.
Yep.
So, but of course it just depends on how we were priced to begin with. And I remind them how many showings we've had, what the feedback has been, that I can't promise them a better offer is going to come along.
Yes. So, I can't tell you how many times I've had to say this. Your first offer is usually your best offer.
Yeah.
Like, don't lose your first buyer waiting on someone else, because every day that passes, you're more likely to get the same offer again, or a lower offer, heaven forbid. I mean, I also, if I get a seller that's just having a real knee jerk, like, this is too low, reject, no way, no how, I'll just say, okay, well, you know what? Let's just sleep on it. We'll talk about it in the morning. Like, let's have one night to like cool down and then come back to it and review numbers. And so I think that's helpful. If you look at it from the buyer side, giving the 24 hours gives gives that listing agent some time to maybe get the seller off the ledge a little bit. Like, if you only give me 5 hours and they immediately say no, nothing is going to change in 5 hours. But if they have some real legitimate time to think about it, they might consider. I think you also really have to be careful to take into consideration what kind of market you're in when you make an offer and when you respond to an offer. And you have to be the person that's explaining that to your buyer or seller. They don't know what kind of market you're in. They don't have a clue. I mean, they may have read some headline.
Yeah. And speaking of that, when I'm working with the buyer, I do look at day on market.
You do?
That's a big indicator to me of, if it's been on the market a week or two, there could be other people very well looking at it. I mean, there could be people looking at it if it's been on the market 150 days, but it's just less likely,
Right. Agree. Yeah. Oh my
gosh.
I
think if it's the higher the day on market, you could try a little bit lower just to see.
Yeah, for sure. Okay. So you're the listing agent. You received the offer. I also want to ask, since we're on offers, I try to go, and I think we've talked about this on another episode, but it's a good time to reiterate it. I try to go to the last few showings, if not all of them, and text, call, or email those agents and say, I have received an offer. I honestly don't even care if it's a full price offer. I still do it.
Yeah.
Because the seller's always in better position if they've got multiple offers. Like, what could go wrong? Like, that's not a bad thing for the seller.
Yeah, if you use showing time in your marketplace, there's a way to go to send notifications, and it's to everybody that has shown the house.
Yeah,
and
it's very easy.
You can just say, hey guys, we've received an offer on this one. I need to know by noon if your client is interested.
Yeah. Do you don't make that time? Do you make that time coincide exactly, or like give them an hour difference? Yeah.
I tell them say I have until 5:00 to respond tomorrow. I'll say I need to know by noon tomorrow.
Yeah. So you have time. Yeah. I mean, you guys be mindful that you have to actually get the work done. So what if another one comes in, or, it's tough if you get an offer 5 minutes after you had to respond to another and you've already sent out your response. I mean, we're trying to be sensitive to deadlines. Oh, that's a good thing to talk about. What about deadlines? Are you,
I always meet a deadline. I don't think I've ever missed one.
Right. I mean, and I take them super seriously.
Yes.
There are some agents who are not that concerned. But I have had to explain to my sellers quite a lot and buyers, I'm like, the seller does not have to respond by a certain deadline if they're countering you. If I'm sending a counter, all that's expired is the offer as you wrote it and sent it. If I don't want to take that either way, then I'm not held to that deadline, and people get real weird about that. Although I think it is professionally courteous and right to try and stick with that deadline on your response. Yeah. It is not a requirement. It doesn't change the fact that you're countering, that original offer.
Right.
Okay. How much back and forth will you do?
I will never counter a counter. I will write a new purchase agreement.
Really? As a buyer's agent? Or even as a listing agent? You don't write a whole new one as a listing agent. You just...
No, but I might ask
them to do it.
Or just try to, I don't like having, I think that might even be a rule in our marketplace now.
Oh, really? Okay.
That you can't have multiple counters.
Yeah, because it's very hard to keep track of. And if you're writing a counter to a counter, you have to remember to put in all the terms.
All the things, yeah.
All the things. So it is a lot to keep your eye on. Okay.
And I'm fine to go back and forth.
Yeah, it's okay. Do you do any verbal negotiating if it's gone back a couple of times already?
No.
I don't either typically, but if someone's really harassing me and they're giving me these, I guess as a listing agent, I might be more inclined. As a buyer's agent, I'm always putting in writing, but as a listing agent, I might be like, geez Louise, just tell me what they can do.
Right.
I don't want to keep going back.
I'm open to discussion, but I'm not going to deliver anything to my sellers verbally.
Yeah. Okay. I think that's fair. What about have you ever had a buyer who asked you to present a verbal offer? Well, can you see if they'll do 200,000?
I never have.
No way. I have it all the time.
Never.
Holy smokes. You really keep those people in line.
I'm pretty strict over here.
I mean, golly. All the time I'll have people say, well, do you think that the seller will take 120 for this house that's listed for 180? And I will always say, no, I don't think so.
I've had them like kind of ask, like, what do you think the seller would take? And I'm like, I don't know the seller at all, but we're going to base, and I always try to take their focus off of the people. And,
that's
and
good.
I'll say, I don't know the seller. I have no idea who they are. I'm not their agent, but we'll look at the subdivision data and see how low we could feasibly offer.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Okay. What else? Oh, we have to talk about escalation clauses.
Yeah.
This is a really key tool if you're dealing with multiple offers. Right. And it is a key tool that I would say more seasoned agents are likely to use and are really super helpful. So if you're in multiple offers, how do you write an escalation clause? What do you put?
I think it needs to be at least $1,000.
Okay. I don't think 500
is, my sellers walked away from one that was 500.
Really?
But I usually put buyer will pay up to $1,000 over the highest offer that the seller receives, up to, like, say the house is listed for 210, up to $217,000.
Yeah.
But seller must provide proof of offer received.
Of the next highest offer, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I've had them come in 500 and my seller, I mean, if you're splitting hairs and they really are the same offer, why wouldn't you take the 500, right?
Mm-hmm. Listen how crazy this is. It was a multiple offer on my listing. The agent that was showing one of them was like, hey, I just want to let you know my clients, they're both attorneys. They're kind of particular. Red flags.
Right. Like, don't tell me any of that.
And then we had multiple offers and they used the $500 escalation clause.
And they still were like, the seller's like, no thanks.
Well, the second offer was like, they were the same, except that these people would pay $500 more. And my sellers decided, we just don't know that it's worth it to get $500 more to go with someone who may be more difficult.
Well, that's agreed. And that's what I would consider to be a red flag, right? So if I get a certain type of buyer or a certain type of loan or a certain wording in their feedback, I had multiple offers. Remember the one that you won? My listing had 5 offers.
So crazy.
And one of them specifically fell out of line, if you will, like when I ranked them, because the feedback the agent had submitted said things that he was probably trying to prime us for an offer, not knowing there would be multiple offers. But it was basically like the house needed some maintenance on the back fence and mentioned something else negative. And I'm like, I don't want to work. We have all these people begging to buy your house. You certainly can't pick the one that pointed out negative stuff.
Mm-mm.
And that's kind of funny because those feedbacks make sense if you're trying to be honest and thorough and you're the only one who's making an offer. And all of a sudden, they become a problem if you're in a multiple offer situation.
I think you also have to be careful what you're telling other agents about your clients. I think as agents, we get comfortable with other agents and we feel like venting connects us maybe, but it could hurt you and you need to watch what you're saying.
I think if you have a difficult client, always more. Mm-hmm.
Yes, if you have a difficult client, you're the only one that needs to know that.
Yeah, for sure. Okay. I don't know.
Okay, so for multiple offers, I don't always call for highest and best.
Okay, so you've received multiple offers as the listing agent.
Mm-hmm.
What do you tell your seller? Walk me through it.
I break down the scenarios on paper, or via email or whatever, so they can see exactly what we're looking at pros and cons of each. We're looking at who the lenders are. I let them know if I know these lenders.
Right.
We're looking at loan type, at how much they're putting down. I email all the lenders and I let them know, if you are happy with one of these offers, we do not have to call for highest and best.
Right.
We can just accept.
Yeah.
Or we can call for highest and best. I usually try to present it as, we have multiple offers. You will, if your client would like to submit a highest and best, I need it by noon tomorrow. Or you can opt to leave your offer as is.
Okay.
I try to word it that way to keep people from backing out altogether.
Okay, that is a great point. And this is my question. That's what happens if you send out the highest and best sometimes. Some of the buyers freak out and they just say, well, never mind, I'll rescind. I've rethought it. I don't want to be in competition. I'm afraid.
I think as agents, we need to be educating our buyers that if there's multiple offers, we don't always get the opportunity for highest and best.
Well, that was the next thing I was going to say. As a listing agent, you've received one offer. So everyone after that, when it came in, you told those agents, I already have an offer. Yes. So I am going to assume that you are giving me your highest and best offer. I don't need to come back and tell you, okay, make it your highest and best. By merit of you being number 2, 3, or 4,
you're competing.
Why are you not giving me your highest and best? If it's not, the only person who needs the opportunity to highest and best is offer 1.
Yeah.
Everyone else should be already there. Yes. And I think it's funny that some agents end up so salty at the end of a multiple offer because maybe you didn't do a highest and best, or, it's not personal. You can only sell the house once. Like you can only sell it once. Someone has to win. I know I don't want to make it adversarial or like a big, someone's a loser, but someone has to win. Like only one person can.
And I usually do try to get a backup offer secured.
Yeah. How do you do that? I find it to be hard sometimes.
I just ask the person that would have been second. I just let them know, hey, you would have been second. You never know how things are going with financing or inspections these days. Would you like to be second in line?
Yeah. Do you counter them at the same terms as the offer you have received if there's a difference?
No, sometimes we'll just that was their highest and best.
Right.
So if they're still happy with it,
Right. Well, sometimes I think I've even had pushback before where they're like, well, or another agent, I believe, has told me this story where they said, okay, would you like to be the backup? And we'll accept your offer the way it's written. And then all of a sudden they're like, well, wait, if my offer was good enough, why didn't you take it? You know what I mean?
Because the other one was higher.
Yeah, but then it just feels almost like, I don't know, a slap in the face. Like, well, shoot,
should have done better.
I know, right? It's tricky. Okay. Anything else on the multiple offer situation?
I don't think so.
I try to think of things, especially on the listing side. I feel like occupancy is one of those things that I have a really serious talk with my sellers about.
Yes.
Like, hey, this closing date is May 1st. That means you have to show up on May 1st with a key in your hand and all of your stuff's got to be out of your house. And you probably couldn't sleep there that night before May 1st because your stuff needs to be out of your house.
Yes.
And then they might say, oh, well, no, I've got to do X, Y, Z. Or I'm like, this negotiation of this offer is the only time you get to make any request or have any say in this. And after it, legally, the buyer doesn't have to let you stay an extra 2 days to move out or whatever it is. So I feel like I've had it happen to me a lot where I was on the buyer side and all of a sudden the seller is like, well, we can't be out at closing.
Right.
I'm like, well,
that's terrifying.
It's so scary.
Get out.
But you really logically and logistically, what are you going to do?
And that's where the move out checklist comes in handy, though, because it's like an awakening that, hey, these are all the things you have to do by May 1st. Get it done.
That's the thing that I think is so important in client management and everything we talk about in professionalism. It is your responsibility as the agent to make sure that your seller and buyer understand how the process actually works and what is actually being required of them. I think that's important. Okay. I do reiterate reserved items scare the bejesus out of me, because even if the seller told me in the listing appointment, and then, I don't know where to, and even if I put it in the listing, I am always afraid, and I try to put like a note somewhere for when I get an offer that if it's not written in the offer, it doesn't still count, right?
I'm buying a fountain right now.
For your seller?
It's my listing, and on the homeowner information sheet, she had put that she was taking the fountain.
Oh.
That homeowner information sheet was in MLS.
Right.
We got multiple offers on this house within like 2 hours of me listing it. It was crazy madness. We went over asking. We ended up not countering anything, and so I just forgot about the fountain. And to me, I found this fountain is movable anyway. Like, it's in the yard, in the flower bed. It's a piece of concrete that is sitting in the flower bed like a pot.
Right. Legally, that is true.
I know, I could fight it. But the buyer's agent emailed me and was like, my buyer drove by and noticed the fountain's gone, and he really wanted the fountain. And I didn't even call my seller.
You're just like, I will handle it. Yeah.
It's not my seller's problem.
No,
my seller put it on the homeowner information sheet day one that she was keeping it. I am not going to be the agent that calls her and tells her I know that you said you wanted to keep your fountain, but would you mind bringing it back? No, don't do that.
But here's my question, because you're the queen of best practices. How would you have avoided this? Like, logistically,
I would have countered.
I know, but did you, at the time of the offers, when the multiple offers came in, you didn't remember?
I didn't remember.
That's my question.
And it was in MLS for the other agents.
I know. I know.
It's like I did all that I could.
That's how I feel too, because I feel like this is that weird part of getting an offer on your listing, that this reserved items thing is. That's why if my seller says, I want to reserve the bathroom mirror, I'm like, can you please take that down and just put up another mirror before listing? Because I don't want to remember this, and I don't want to forget it. And as the buyer's agent, I almost feel like reserved is easier, because I look at the list, I write down what's in the MLS. Or if there's something like a fountain that maybe I need, or a play set or something I want to just clarify with the listing agent, it's fine. But as a listing agent, I feel like this is one of those things that's easy to get lost.
It is. Yeah.
All right, so we don't really have a best practice.
I mean, I did everything I could, and I just freaking forgot.
I know. Well, that's right. You're human.
My brain.
Now you're buying a fountain.
Luckily, he was fine with $100.
Oh, that's not bad.
Yeah. I was like, I don't know. God. I hope it, how much could a fountain be? And if he wasn't going to be okay with it, I was prepared to go fight for, like, I'm not paying you $500.
Well, look, I had the same.
I was prepared to go.
I had the fountain situation. I had the buyer, though, and the fountain was a big, huge concrete. It looked like it was 200 pounds. A fountain by the front, like in the courtyard. And the seller had been nothing but trouble the whole time. Of course, here we go to the walk. I'm pretty sure we noticed it at the walkthrough, like, fountain's gone. And I'm like, I call the agent. I'm like, what's the story? Fountain's gone. And she's like, what do you mean? It's movable. And I'm like, that giant concrete fountain was movable. So then I had the title attorney had to talk my buyer through it and be like, I'm sorry, but it plugged into the wall. It didn't leave any damage when it was removed. It's movable. It's not. Wow. And then it was on me because I didn't tell my buyer to ask for it. You know what I mean?
So what did you do?
I just felt bad. I mean, he was okay. He understood the legality of it. I mean, the title attorney explained the legality of it. It's not, but I felt bad. And I was like, I'm sorry. It never would have even occurred to me. It's like one of those things. It's a lesson you learn the hard way, because my client ended up unhappy.
Right.
And the seller did something that I think maybe was a little sketchy, but truly,
that's a tough one.
In legal terms, it's not. It was okay for your seller to take it.
Mm-hmm.
It's tough. Okay. Anything else on offers? I feel like you could really cover this for a lot. There's so much nuance.
I mean, we could go into lease purchases.
Oh my gosh.
Go into, there's so many outlets we could go, but I think that this was a good offer basics.
Okay. I think that's fair. All right. I have a toast.
I'm ready.
Oh, good. Okay. So today we are going to toast to Kristen I think it's Mean. She's in Virginia Beach, and she just got her first ever lead for a buyer from out of state that's moving into her area on Instagram.
Oh my gosh.
I know.
That's so good.
And as I was checking out Kristen, she also has the super amazing Instagram account, Summer Chic Antique. And she like rehabs.
Cute.
Oh my gosh, so cute. And she rehabs antiques, and they were beautiful.
Oh, wow.
So y'all go check out Kristen and celebrate with us her big win. She got a lead on her Instagram.
Congratulations, Kristen.
Congrats, Kristen. Cheers.
Cheers to you.
Okay, bye, friends.
Bye. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Hustle Humbly podcast. Let us know who we should toast to for the next episode.
Be sure to follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Hustle Humbly Podcast. If you have an episode, topic, or question, please email us at hustlehumblypodcast@gmail.com.
Be sure to subscribe to the podcast and leave a review. See you next week.
Bye.
This is the good life.